Greetings, comics fans. Lieutenant Fish back to do a quick comic review update. So this is just a quick summary roundup of some of the indie books I picked up this week. This was, all in all, one of the best comic weeks I've had altogether in the last few months as far as general titles. So I picked up, aside from Avengers #1 and the True Believers books this week, I picked up a handful of indie titles from a whole bunch of different studios, and they all turned out to be uniformly awesome, including a couple of #1s. So we'll just hit them up real fast in order. So John Carpenter's Tales of Science Fiction, The Vortex. This is issue 7 of 8. This is a good horror science fiction story. Some good art. The first couple issues were a little hard to tell who was who in some cases just because of the similar uniforms. As you're getting to know the characters, similar uniforms, similar haircuts, the color and stuff in the spaceship and in the lighting makes it a little harder to tell who's who. But it has developed really well. Definitely, it's a little late to get in on the story now. Only one issue left. If you like The Thing, if you like, let's see, Aliens, classic science fiction horror, well-written, solid science, some good space physics, all kinds of stuff like that, definitely look for this one. You might be able to pick it all up in back issues at your store. Otherwise, pick up the trade, which should be out soon. This is the second trade paperback from John Carpenter's Tales of Science Fiction by Storm King Comics. I believe the first one is only 3 issues. I'm not sure what the next one is going to be like, but this is a solid presentation. Mike Sizemore, Dave Kennedy, Pete Kennedy, Janice Chang. I highly recommend this story. Next one. This is another one that's been ongoing for a little while. The Gravediggers Union. This is issue number 6. If you look in your store, the trade paperback for issues 1 through 5 just came out last week or the week before. So this is an interesting story. It's a little bit of Hellboy, a little bit of the Z Word, which was published by Humanoids Comics. The art style is a little independent. It's an interesting format, and it brings to mind also the Ganketsuo anime series to me, with the use of textures in different frames. Sometimes you have a sort of texture for the entire piece of clothing or something that is more like a wallpaper or something else. But it's a very interesting horror adventure. Also reminds me a little bit of Zombie World by Mignola, and then the later ones were by some other writers and artists. And it's a good. And this one actually is the first issue that really brings in the whole union aspect, where they're fighting with their union about having to bring in some extra benefits and work with some extra folks in order to get the job done. But this is a fun supernatural horror series. A little bit of the mundane mixing with the violent and bloody and horrific. And it's definitely independent style, but it's well presented. The characters are fun and generally relatable, and they have a nice blue-collar vibe about them. So I've enjoyed this one so far. You can check out the trade or the individual issues as well. Again, this is number 6. I don't remember. I think it's out of 12 total. But these guys are really cool on Twitter as well, at least. Toby Cypress, I've been following him for a while, and he's cool. So check it out. Next is Hillbilly Number 9. I love this stuff. I love anything Powell does. Eric Powell's awesome. He also has a YouTube channel, and I'll link to it below. I only just found this one this week. Albatross Exploding Funny Books is still blocking me for whatever reason, since I only try and promote them. But this is gorgeous. This is beautiful artwork. The story, as usual, is excellent. And Eric Powell does all writing, drawing, lettering, everything on this by himself. It is a one-man show, which is why this has been a little sporadic. This is a bit of a hiatus since the last issue. The next 3 or 4 issues should be coming out about once a month from the schedule I saw. Now, this brings in James Stone Turner, who is a callback to issue 1. And this gives us a lot more of the mythology that ties into the local Appalachian folklore. We also have the return of Talipo, one of the monsters that the hillbilly fought, I think in issue 5 or 6. But again, this is an excellent book. It's an excellent folklore, beautiful art, beautiful stories. it's dark. It's not as comedic as The Goon, but it is a solid piece of work as always, and I cannot recommend it highly enough, even if the studio blocks me. I will keep pushing this stuff because Powell is a real master when it comes to storytelling, writing, drawing, everything. So please look it up. Support your independent creators. And Eric's a good guy, Goon Guy on Twitter. He's cool, and he does have a good YouTube channel. And frankly, the YouTube review on his channel of Hillbilly Number 9 is probably better than you're getting from me. Next is Alien Toilet Monsters. Now, this was an interesting one. I guess this is a reprint of something that came out or was initially released sometime last year in August or so. I looked on the release date, and it was an official release last week as well, so I can't give you a whole lot more information. This is a weird title, ATM, but it's basically a nifty multiverse-themed story. It basically has the whole concept of multiple parallel universes that humanity can access via the right technology, and what happens when things start going through the gates that aren't supposed to go through the gates. And it's a good story, and it's some interesting characters. And I'm not really sure where they're going to go with some of the characters from here, but they tie it in fairly well. It's a little hard to follow some of the mixed media graphics and story parts that they talk about, but in general, the technology is fairly well explained, a little bit mysterious at the end of the first issue, but they really go all in as far as there's several advertisements in here that are actually fake advertisements for elements of the world and media aspects of the world, which are a little confusing trying to figure out what some of the acronyms are, but on the whole, it's weird, it's a little disturbing, but has some gore. But this reminds me a little bit of Feast, actually, the independent horror film that came out, at least the setting, but not so, I mean, the multiverse is a little bit different. But it's fun, and you might enjoy this one if you like violent comedy. Not too crazy on the whole, but I'm looking forward to the next one. There's a few different covers out there you can dig up as well. And then last but not least, definitely not least, this Death or Glory. This blew me out of the water by Remender and Bengal. I am trying my best to get a hold of a couple of the alternate covers because all of these are so gorgeous. Now the story is a little bit like No Country for Old Men crossed with Hell or High Water with a little bit of Vanishing Point in it. And some great art, some great writing, some interesting characters, interesting villains. This is very vulnerable. This is, the girl has to raise enough money to buy a kidney transplant for her dying father. But the problem is, they've been off the grid so long, she doesn't even have a social security number, much less insurance or anything else. So, she's got to try and... she knows where she can get a score, where she can rob someone and maybe just make enough money. But as you can see, things go from bad to worse. And then everything really goes downhill. So this book is awesome. This book is tight. I am definitely looking forward to the next issue. This is a great story, some very compelling characters, beautiful cars, beautiful concepts, and this is great, and highly recommend this. And these guys are posting some of the concept art and some of the cover pics on Twitter as well. Awesome. I cannot wait for the next issue. Definitely check Death or Glory out. You will not regret it. And that's it for this. Just a quick indie comic some breakdown for this past week, 2nd of May, 2018, and might get a movie review out in the next week or so. Who knows? But that's it for now. Lieutenant Fish, out.